For more Magic the Gathering resources, check out my friends at paperchampion.net and Kitchen Table MTG.
Hey everybody, this is Tao at The Forge, and man, a lot of stuff happened this week. So I want to kind of go over it, and a lot of people have already covered these things earlier in the week, but I still want to kind of put my 2 cents in on some of these things. And yeah, anyways, let's get started. There's so many things, so much news released about Magic Online, or Magic the Gathering this week. So let's go to the 25th anniversary announcement page. There's a lot of really, really exciting things here. So first of all, they talked about Ixalan, and Ixalan is basically going to be pirates and dinosaurs. And Vraska is on Ixalan, so that seems really cool. Come on, like, dinosaurs, really? That's going to be awesome. And pirate tribal, like, that's going to be pretty sweet. I'm hoping that they have a lot of really cool pirates, and maybe even adding them to the cubes. Anyway, so hopefully that'll be a lot of fun. I'm pretty excited. Okay, so Rivals of Ixalan on January 19th. Yeah, well, you know, I'm not too excited about that. I mean, like, it's exciting that a new set's coming out, but okay, I'd like to see what Ixalan is like first before I kind of get super pumped about Rivals, but, you know, it looks good, and I'm just excited about that set in general. Okay, so next thing is Explorers of Ixalan is out-of-the-box multiplayer Magic experience. So it looks like, when I looked at it, it looked like it was like almost kind of like a plane chase type thing, or it might have been like a board game. It's kind of interesting, but we'll see how it goes. Like, I'm not sure. It seems kind of like Magic Light, but it might be a good way for people to play Magic and get more people involved in, you know, with kind of like a board/card game altogether. Art of Magic the Gathering, I personally don't really care about these at all. Like, yeah, the art is awesome. I love Magic art, but I'm not going to buy a book just about it. If you love Magic art, then you buy these books, great. I mean, you know, I'm not hating you for it. I just don't really care enough to buy a book about it myself. This one is one that I think is awesome. Dual decks, Merfolk versus Goblins. Now, Merfolk is obviously like a huge, you know, like a favorite tribe. Same thing with Goblins. People really like to play those. I'm kind of interested to see if they'll give some reprints. Like, they haven't reprinted a lot of things like Lord of Atlantis in quite some time. When I was looking for, like, I have a Merfolk deck, and when I was putting it together, it was hard to find some Lord of Atlantises, especially, I could get a lot of white border ones, but to find the non-white borders were really hard. And I ended up actually going for the foil promos instead, because they just look so nice. Yeah, anyways, Merfolk versus Goblins, it'll be interesting to see whether or not they actually just produce do 100% reprints, or if they actually make new Merfolk or new Goblins to try and push those decks forward. If they do, it's possible that Merfolk could go from like a tier 2 deck to a tier 1 deck. Yeah, it could become like super oppressive depending on what you put in there. Goblins also could be, but Goblins has never really seemed to take off. Like, people were excited when Goblin Piledriver got re-released, and, you know, people were predicting that Goblins would be like, you know, just destroying everyone, but it never really took off, like, you know, as a tier 1 deck, as far as I know anyways. Merfolk has the potential to be really oppressive, so I think they have to be careful if they are actually putting out new cards there. Anyways, From the Vault Transform. Okay, well, that's okay, I guess. From the Vault is basically just a whole bunch of, like, collector's cards, so if you're into collecting those cards, then great. I'm personally not. Like, I don't really care that much about collecting those special cards, you know, but again, if you like to do that, more power to you. Like, you know, I just, if I have the money for something, I'm probably going to spend it on something else besides that. Okay, so returning to Dominaria. That's actually a really exciting, cool one, a cool idea. They're releasing a 25th Anniversary Edition Masters set, and this is kind of a weird one. The product will contain 249 cards from across Magic's entire history, and will provide a drafting experience like previous Masters products. So it's basically another Eternal Masters. I don't know why they just don't call it. Well, I guess, you know, it sounds cool when it's 25th Anniversary Edition, but really, like, if you're providing cards from all of Magic's entire history, then really you're just, you know, an Eternal Masters again. So next year, new Eternal Masters. So once again, they're reintroducing core sets, and that actually, I actually like that idea. Now, this is an announcement that a lot of people have had mixed reviews about. Some people don't really like them, some people really do. I actually personally do. I thought, like, when I first started, I was in the Theros block, and it was coming up at the end of Gatecrash and Return to Ravnica. And I actually bought like a bunch of 2014 and around the 2013, 2014 core sets, and that actually really helped me start getting things together. And I think the core sets are good. I actually like them. This next announcement is one that I'm super, super excited about, is Unstable, another unset. I love the uncards. They're so awesome. They're super fun, and like by far my favorite uncard is Cheaty Face. Sometimes I'll just carry around a bunch of Cheaty Faces, and then, I know it's supposed to be that you're supposed to play it from your hand, but it's fun, especially if you're introducing new players into the game. They might get distracted and talking to someone or something like that, and then they turn back to the table and you got like 4 Cheaty Faces on there. It's actually pretty funny. And they're like, where did those come from? You're like, what do you mean? I played them recently. And they're like, no, you didn't. And we're like, well... And then once they read the card text, they usually just get a huge laugh out of it. But I think actually, there's a lot of fun stuff that can go into the unsets, and I'm glad to see a new unstable one. That I'm probably almost certainly going to buy a booster box or 2 of those. So that's actually pretty cool and exciting. There's a couple other things that came up. Let's go to June 14th update. Now, this week I've been kind of sick, and it was also my birthday this week, and Father's Day came around, and so I've been super busy. But let's see, Aetherworks Marvel was banned. I'm actually pretty glad that Aetherworks Marvel was banned, even though I don't play a lot of Standard. Free casting things is just broken. Like even if it's not. Some people argue that it's just not broken, but you gotta think like your opponent just doesn't feel like it's fair. Right, that like if you suddenly get to like, yeah, you could whiff on it, but if you hit like an Ulamog or something like that, your opponent's not going to feel like it was like fairly played. Like a great example of that is actually Gifts Ungiven. Right, Gifts Ungiven, I actually really strongly disagree with the ruling on it. I'll go over here. Let's take a look at it. I want to actually talk about this in just a moment here, but we'll go to Gatherer. Just a second here. So here we go, is Gifts Ungiven. So search your library for up to 4 cards with different names and reveal them. Target opponent chooses 2 of those cards. Put the chosen cards into your graveyard, the rest into your hand, then shuffle your library. So what most people do with this card, though, is they just choose the 2 cards they want into the graveyard. Usually one of those is Unburial Rites, and the other one's like an Emrakul or something like that. And then they use the Unburial Rites, so they basically cast it cheaper from the graveyard and bring their creature back from the graveyard. And they just say that they couldn't find 2 other cards. And so here he says you can choose to find fewer than 4 cards if you want. If you find 1 or 2 cards, your opponent must choose for them to be put into your graveyard, even if he or she doesn't want to. Like, when I talk about a card just not feeling fair, like Aetherworks Marvel, this is another card that just doesn't feel fair. Like, when you show this to a new player, to Magic the Gathering, and like you do this to them, like, the first thing they actually think is that you cheated, is that you're lying, right? Like, I think that personally, it seems like, it seems really unfair because, let's say you cast this, you've got like 30, 40 cards still in your library and you fail to find, you say like, oh, I can't find 2 other cards. Well, that's kind of dirty. They know that, everyone knows that you've got 2 other cards in there, with different names. And if you don't, then you have an illegal deck, right? So like, it's kind of crap, right? And then even a lot of people, especially when I ask or tell them about this card, they say, well, so on the next turn, when you play a different card, can I call you on it? And could I call a judge over it? And I'm like, no, you can't. It's just, that's the ruling on this card. It just seems like instead of saying, that target opponent chooses 2 of those cards to put the chosen cards in your graveyard, blah, 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 it just would say, put 2 cards of your choice into the graveyard. Like the way it's worded is just so weird that, it seems like your opponent should have some choice there. And then what I think is your target opponent should be able to choose like the empty pile, right? So if you choose 4 cards with different names, you only chose 2. and then your opponent should be able to choose the empty pile and have that go to your graveyard and have the other two go to your hand, right? Like, at the very least, you know. But again, Aetherworks Marvel is kind of like this card. I think that, you know, like, neither are really totally broken. Like, there's, you know, obviously, I have like a video recently where I played Mono Blue Fairies with this, and I just keep countering it over and over again, you know, and my opponent eventually gives up. But, you know, like, and it's not breaking the format. Like, you don't see like 30-50% of the decks running this, but it's just when people play this, they just feel like it's not right, right? Like, you know, like most people will say, like, you know, that it just seems like something's wrong there. So anyways, like, I don't like Gifts Ungiven, really. I also don't like Aetherworks Marvel. If there's a card you really, really hate, actually, that should be my next video. Cards that I just really don't like. But, I mean, I don't want to get too negative either. But anyways, Gifts Ungiven is kind of like one of those cards. If there's a card you don't like, throw it in the comments. Let me know. Like, I'd like to, yeah, let's maybe do like a most hated cards of all time video and see what people think. Anyways, let's go back to this. Let's see. The rest is just kind of whatever. There's a couple other things I wanted to talk about. Now, you can probably see here, one of them is this, Vizier of Remedies. I really hate this card. Right, so Vizier of Remedies, if one or more -1/-1 counters we put on a creature you control, that many counters -1 are put on it instead. Right? Now, the problem is that when you play this, a lot of people play this with Devoted Druid. Okay, so what Vizier of Remedies does, it says if you're going to put a counter, -1/-1 counter on a creature, you just put, instead of 1, you'd put 0, or instead of 2, you'd put 1, and so on and so forth. But when you combine that with Devoted Druid, right, you put a -1/-1 counter on the Devoted Druid, you untap, and then you untap them. So it means that you can tap them for mana, untap it. If you have Vizier of Remedies, he doesn't get a counter on him, then you can tap him again and keep untapping infinitely, right? Like, and I've actually played a number of decks, and a growing number of decks in Modern, where people constantly play this, and they have, like, because it's playing in green, they can play it with what is it? I think no, it's not Reclamation Sage. It's the other elf that can bring cards back from the graveyard. So, like, basically, even if you kill the Devoted Druid, they'll just bring it back. You know, bring it back, and then they'll play that in combined with Chord of Calling. Right, so, you know, they'll combo that with Chord of Calling, and, you know, on turn 3, they can put out, like, a gigantic creature, or not even, like, by turn 3, they could put out, like, a gigantic haste creature, or an Emrakul, or something like that, right? It's kind of crazy, right? Like, the thing is Modern, yeah, Modern's a fast format, but this deck can regularly, like, by turn 2 or 3, you know, pull out, like, you know, an Emrakul. Right, like, I think it's just kind of broken, and I found that even with my decks that are just filled with hate, you know, this deck just comes so fast that it's really hard to beat. I'm actually going to predict that Vizier of Remedies or Devoted Druid is probably going to get banned at some point. I really hope it does. I personally hate this deck, again, because I think it's kind of a broken combo, and it comes out so fast that it's really hard to deal with. Like, unless you're, like, if you're playing, you know, let's say mono blue something, right? Like, it's really hard for you to beat this because all your counters, like, come out so late, right? Like, and, you know, these two creatures can get online in turn 3, right? So you could go turn 1 Forest, turn 2 Devoted Druid, turn 3 Vizier of Remedies, and then just start tapping and untapping like crazy. You know, play out the rest of your hand. If you happen to have any card draw, like Elvish Visionary or something like that, you draw some more cards, get into Collected Company, you know, or Chord of Calling, and, you know, so on and so forth. So things can get, like, really, really oppressive with this. And then also they often play things with, like, Kitchen Finks. So, like, what they'll do is they'll play another color, sacrifice Kitchen Finks, you know, have it go to the graveyard, come back, lose its counter, gain life, and, you know, stuff like that. So I think that one of these cards has got to go. You know, it's just too fast of a combo, especially for Modern. All right, anyways, I don't want to get too salty about that, but anyways, one of the things is that Ixalan, and you can tell I've been coughing a lot, my voice is just starting to go. Ixalan was recently spoiled. Like, someone from a factory, or like from the printer, took home like an entire sheet from Ixalan and actually spoiled the whole sheet. Now, here's my thoughts. First of all, I don't think that people should do that. I think that that's a pretty terrible thing to do. Like Wizards, if you love Magic the Gathering, you shouldn't try and spoil the cards. You're just wrecking the game for everyone. But one thing that's kind of bothering me is that all these other channels, they're like, oh, this is so awful that they spoiled it. That this guy did that and he was a scumbag and blah, blah, blah. But then what they do is then they go and carefully like talk about every single card that they can decipher on that sheet. Right? So and then some people are like, well, I'm not the one that did it. I'm just like, now that they're spoiled, everyone knows about it. I'm like, okay, but that's kind of like the people that say like, well, when someone's pictures are illegally downloaded, onto the internet, it's not my fault because I didn't take them. I'm just enjoying the fruits of that criminal labor. Right? So anyways, I personally think that, I'm not going to spoil any of the cards. I'm not going to really look at them very much. I like it to be a surprise. Of course, people are going to be interested in the finance area and stuff like that. But, I don't think that people should do that. Do I think it's going to be backbreaking for Wizards? No, I don't think so. Like, there's been sets that have been spoiled before, and, it didn't really do anything. So I think I think this is actually a pretty good set. People are going to get excited about it, and I think that, it's still going to sell really well. So, I'm not too worried about it. They're also coming out with a product, Arch Enemy Nicol Bolas. So Arch Enemy Nicol Bolas, I think, is kind of interesting. Now, here's a kind of an interesting thing. What I did is I actually went down to my local game store, and I just asked them if they had Arch Enemy cards. And they actually did. They had actually been selling Plane Chase and Arch Enemy cards, and they were selling them for 25 cents each, right? Just in bulk. Right, so instead of buying the anthology or whatever, I just bought all the cards. And a lot of people say that playing Arch Enemy is not really that fun. But one thing I found is actually playing with new players, especially in multiplayer, playing Arch Enemy can be a lot of fun. Like, one of the things that happened with this gaming group that I've been playing with is that one of the players, like, all the decks were kind of equally balanced, but one of the players went and spent a little bit of money and upgraded their deck. So what they did is they started with kind of a graveyard. It's from the Blessed and Cursed, the Blessed versus Cursed dual deck. So they got the Cursed side. And what they did is they completed some play sets and put in a few combos here and there. Especially they had that that Ghoul Razor, or I forget what the name of that card is. It's that zombie that can be killed and then can be cast from your graveyard if you control the zombie. But anyways, it combos out really nicely and it creates some really cool sacrifice mechanics. Anyways, what happened there is that very quickly that player's deck became way more powerful than everyone else's decks. And then no one really wanted to play with them anymore because that deck is just too powerful, and, they even remarked that it seemed kind of unfair, because, other people could have upgraded. Now, admittedly, the rest of their friends actually upgraded their decks later to become more powerful, so the power level kind of leveled out, right? But in the meantime, no one really wanted to play against this deck because it's just too powerful. So one thing you can do with Arch Enemy is, in this case, you could have that one player become the Arch Enemy, right? So they have a pretty powerful deck, but can they beat 3 other decks all at once? Right, that's an interesting question, and probably not. When you have 3 other players all attacking you at once, it's not that easy to win. So what you could find is you could be playing, Arch Enemy, and it can actually give you a chance, and that way, you can still play your, slightly more powerful deck, but, not feel bad about crushing your friends. And then your friends also will feel a bit better because they feel like they might have a better chance. And so when I brought out the Arch Enemy cards, people really, really liked it a lot. It made for a more fun play experience, and overall, I think it was pretty good. Overall, a good buy, especially because I got them all for 25 cents each, which is, just amazing. It was almost like the sleeves I bought for them were more expensive than the cards. So anyways, I could totally recommend, maybe not buying the Arch Enemy set, but maybe just going online and looking for the cards in bulk. The Arch Enemy cards, same thing with the Plane Chase cards, they're super fun to play with. And, it can really make for an interesting experience. All right. Whew, that's actually quite a bit to talk about all at once. You know, a lot of cool stuff happened this week in Magic the Gathering. It's an exciting year, I think. I think we're going to see a lot of cool stuff, and I'm excited to see what it is. What are you most excited about? Let me know in the comments. Like, seriously, because it's not just because, I want people to comment on my video, but it also will lead me to, like, tell me what you guys want to see. So if you're, like, interested in new decks or new tribal stuff or more into, like, product reviews or whatever, like, let me know. Like, if you want me to do a set on, like, the most hated cards, and, that'd be great. I also was thinking of doing a video on the most sideboarded cards or some of the best sideboard cards, or, budget sideboard cards or something like that. Anyways, let me know what you think in the comments, and, if you have deck ideas or things you want to see, put that there too. I'm always looking for new ideas. So anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.